Welcome to Relationships on Reddit. In this series, we look at posts on Reddit. We'll check out some of the responses. I'll provide some coaching questions for exploration, as I would for a client who is in the situation. Then finally, I'll provide my commentary at the end of just being myself, unfiltered and unadulterated. Hi, I'm Janelle, the relationship coach behind The Successful Invisible. Check out my links below if you're interested in working with me for group coaching or one-on-one coaching. The goal of exploring these posts is to have you become more discerning, intentional, and successful in your dating and relationships. Let's get into this Reddit about someone being on the phone the entire first date. Whew, this is going to be a good one. He was talking on phone the entire first date. I met this guy on Bumble, and I really liked him from what I had learned through our text messages. We FaceTimed twice, and I gathered that he was deeply self-aware and emotionally intelligent. It really felt as though we could talk for hours. I also felt really attracted to him. We agreed to meet today at 12:30. At 10:30 a.m., he texted me saying he's on his way. I said no, I won't be ready till 12:30. So he waits for me. The entire date, I kid you not, he was on a Zoom call. He was apologetic about it, and I know he has a busy work schedule, but throughout the date, I felt lonely, bored, and disrespected. I tried to be understanding about it, and I get that things happen, but not sure how to proceed. Do I block? Edit, as requested, more details to the story. We met at Starbucks. When I got there, he was on the phone. I sat and stared at him while he spoke on the phone for 10 minutes. Was kind of in disbelief. Then he hung up the phone and we walked down the road to a sushi spot. Once we sat down to eat, he said, "By the way, I have a Zoom call." For the entirety of eating, for maybe 45 minutes, he had his phone on the table with the Zoom call blasting. I couldn't even say a word. Then, when the Zoom call ended, he said we have to go because he has another meeting. He walked me to my car and I left. All right, the first comment by T No Sugar Dash of Milk says, that's an interesting first date. My initial thoughts were, don't do a second. Then I thought, oh, that's harsh. So do a second date and report back here, crossed out purely for my entertainment, because he might be nice. And if he does that again, give him a third chance, crossed out, because I sense a lot of comedy potential, because everyone deserves chances, right? With this huge smiley face. And OP responds with laughing emojis. All right, the second comment is from Counterclockwise Swirl that says, no, I would have left, fuck that guy. And then Dry Clock 1470 says, how he acted doesn't seem to square with deeply aware and or emotionally intelligent, which was described by OP in the post. All right, our next comment comes from Gothic Love Muppet, who says, I definitely wouldn't continue with this guy. Unmatch, yes. I only block if they don't leave me alone after I send the thanks but no thanks, bye message. It was really rude of him to continue that meeting at the same time of your date. He should have just canceled once he realized the mix-up. Who goes on a date just to ignore the person they're on the date with the whole time? Feels disrespectful as fuck. And then a deleted comment says, that is my motto as well. Then this next comment comes from Ciark Bait, who says he's rude and he doesn't seem to be emotionally intelligent if he thinks it's right to do what he did during a date. It's an uphill battle. Easier paths are available. I wouldn't necessarily have to block, but I'd just bid him adieu and move forward with other men who think I'm worthy of their time. All right, now I want to move on to some green flags and red flags that I'd like to point out and identify within this Reddit post to help you, my beautiful listeners, become more self-aware and intentional in your own dating journey. So let's start off with the positive. Though there were many, many points of foolishness in this post, let's start off with the green flags. So, one of the first green flags I want to point out is that there was communication multiple times prior to the first date. And I like that it seemed to be FaceTime, and they did FaceTime twice prior to actually going on the first date. That lets me know that there was a feeling of confidence of who they were meeting. No one was feeling like they were being going to be catfished or were catfished on the date. It also allows you to build up some type of energetic connection prior to the date, because meeting someone just cold bit from, messaging in a dating app and then to meeting face to face can feel like you're cold calling somebody, almost like with sales, and that is not always the best start. It doesn't have to be bad, but it can be uncomfortable for some. So I did think that was a definite green flag. Multiple points of communication outside of the app and prior to meeting on the first date. Another green flag was the original poster, or OP's, a positive perception of self-awareness that she had about her date being emotionally intelligent and having self-awareness. So that to me signifies, and I can surmise or summarize from the post, that she felt that they had a pretty good connection, and both of the exchanges prior to the first date were positive. Okay, next green flag was a setting and an agreement of the date and time for the first date. I definitely think that is a green flag, and it shows that they did communicate that clearly, the expectations for one another to have the first date. All right, now let's get into the red flags for this date, or that occurred on this date. There were an abundance of red flags, and they by far outweighed the green flags. So for starters, there was an attempt to change the time of meeting on the day of the date. Right there, that shows a disregard of somebody's time. That shows a lack of respect, because I do understand that dates and times may need to be shifted and changed. We're all busy. And this is grown folks dating here. We have busy calendars, we have full lives, etc. But there's a way to go about it, and trying to change it 2 hours before the actual dating time is a no. Huge red flag. Another one is that this guy was on a Zoom call, several actually, during the whole date. So he wasn't even present. And once again, it shows a lack of respect for the original poster, OP, as well as a lack of respect of himself. Another red flag. If he's not respecting you on the first date, if anyone is not respecting you on the first date, that is setting the tone for any type of exchanges going forward, whether that be friendship, relationship, casual friends. So be very, very mindful of what is allowed and tolerated on a first date. It also showed that he doesn't have, and this is a red flag to me, that he lacks some awareness. Now, one of the green flags that I mentioned earlier that the OP pointed out was that she felt that there was self-awareness, but his actions are showing he has very much a lack of self-awareness, and he's also coming across by doing that not as just disrespectful, but also very immature. That's childish for a grown man or woman to be on a date and be on calls. I don't care if they're work calls. That means you knew that you were not available to actually have time to sit and connect with your date. So lack of respect and lack of maturity. The feeling that was being evoked through this behavior was that the OP original poster was feeling lonely and disrespected. Huge red flag. If anyone makes you feel that way on a date, it's a no. That is the purpose of dating, is supposed to be, positive interaction, positive exchanges, vibrant, a person that you want to meet up with again. So words such as lonely, disrespected, inconsiderate, huge red flags. If you have any of those feelings on a date, take a step back and then really assess if this is something that you should try and continue. Because once again, behaviors that are accepted on the first date, that is setting the tone of your exchange going forward. Another red flag was cutting the date short. So after they went from the Starbucks to the sushi restaurant and there was a second Zoom call, this person is quite oblivious that OP was going out with, of just how rude that is. Um, Lack of self-awareness, that he also had to cut the date short because he had to get back to the office for another call. So on top of all of the disrespect and all of the things that occurred and his lack of awareness that that just wasn't appropriate, then he cut the date short. Another red flag for me when looking at the person who originally posted this, their lack of self-worth, because you're not valuing yourself and your time if you allow yourself to be subjected to this, because this is a two-way street and we're grown. This is on the dating over 40 Reddit, so we are talking about grown people. And if you're out here dating and you're not respecting yourself all the time, that's also a red flag. And it may be a point of self-reflection and self-awareness that you may need to do some more healing, soul searching, etc., prior to continuing to go on dates. So that's a huge red flag as well. Overall, there were many more red flags than green flags on this date, but hopefully hearing what some of them are, you can identify any patterns you have. If there's any that you feel I've missed, feel free to drop some comments below and definitely reflect as well. Now let's jump into some coaching questions that I would pose or ask to clients in my one-on-one or group coaching sessions if they brought a situation like this to the table. Feel free to jot these questions down and answer them just in your own time, because the point is always self-reflection, self-awareness, and self-growth. Those things together will allow you to be a more effective and just happier dater or person that people like to date. So let's start. Question number 1. What values and priorities were reflected in the actions and behavior observed during the date? Now, this is both from the perspective of the original poster as well as from the perspective of you, and feel free to put yourself in the head of the person that they went on a date with. Question 2. How do those actions align with personal boundaries and relationship expectations? Question 3. In what ways did the experience align or conflict with desired feelings in a romantic setting? Question 4. What lessons can be drawn from this date to inform future interactions and decisions? And question 5. How might understanding and setting boundaries contribute to more fulfilling dating experiences in the future? Like I said, take your time with these questions, write them down, answer them several times if necessary, especially if this sounds like a scenario that you either have found yourself in or would likely find yourself in. So we'll give you great insights. Okay, now let me speak totally freely. Just me being me. Let's get into it. So this date to me as a first date was trash. And I would have to say I personally would have excused myself after Starbucks. I would not have proceeded to the sushi restaurant if I started a date and this the person I'm on a date with just didn't have any respect or any regard for me. And after the first call, I would have said, you know what? I don't think you have the time or the capacity right now to really engage with me on a first date. And I probably personally would not give this person a second chance, because you never get a second chance to give a first impression. And the impression that the original poster, the OP, received, or got from their FaceTime exchanges was pretty positive based on the post. So it wasn't like that the exchange had always been negative. But something like this, I would have excused myself, been polite. You never have to be rude. Got in my car, went home, and before I started my car, would have blocked their profile on Bumble, because that's the platform they were using. and completely block them from, their number, if I had given them my number, etc. Because this level of disrespect is totally inappropriate, and I have a very hard boundary around that. We are adults. I always conduct myself in a certain way, and I have an expectation for my date to always conduct themselves in a certain way. This isn't like, you're in a relationship and somebody gets a call, and you understand those things happen, but once again, we're not going to establish the baseline from a point of disrespect. And that's one reason, me personally, everybody's different on this, I wouldn't do a coffee date. So this probably wouldn't have even happened for me, because meeting at Starbucks is a no. I'm not here to be the cheapest date possible. I'm not here to break anyone's bank. But once again, there's a certain level of expectation that I have from a date, because there's a certain manner and way I always conduct myself, and a certain level that I always hold myself to. And so, yeah, this would have been a no for me. And from FaceTime, if I had gotten an initial positive, impression of my date and how they behave, and then their actions said something totally different, on the drive home from Starbucks, I would have done, some serious self-reflection about what flags did I miss during our initial exchanges. What wasn't I paying attention to? Maybe because I was more so leaning into the physical attraction that I have, or, how handsome they are, etc. This exchange would have really forced me to do some self-reflection, but this would have been a total no for me. This would have been a block and delete situation for me, because we're grown and I don't play games with grown people. I don't engage or entertain this type of behavior, but I know everyone is different and has different standards, etc. But I would say, even for women who maybe wouldn't have, cut it off at such a hard line, at minimum, if they would have continued on this date, I would definitely encourage some real self-reflection, and really what message you're sending, allowing this type of exchange and behavior. So just my thoughts, and just my own personal, how I would have moved in this, because I really think it's appalling that people are out here in this world who are grown. Like I said, this is on the Dating Over 40 Reddit, and this is what they're experiencing, which is quite sad, because it also shows that, your age, your genealogical age doesn't always match your maturity. Oftentimes it doesn't for most people, and that goes for men and women equally. But this would have been an absolute no for me. So that's all. Thank you for joining me today for this edition of Relationships on Reddit. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. In the comments, let me know some of the challenging or interesting dating situations that you have encountered in the past. Also, feel free to suggest other posts on Reddit that you would like me to include in this series. Thanks for tuning in today. This is Janelle, and I look forward to sharing some more posts with you next time. Check out my links below if you're interested in working with me for group coaching or one-on-one coaching.